When you went into the studio to make this album, American Gangster, there was a buzz about you. Jay-Z's back. He's creating music.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted to get involved. People that hadn't been with you for a while, like Diddy.
Yeah.
Comes to you and wants to be the executive producer.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And you look at him and say, man, you
can't executive produce an executive producer.
What'd you say to him? What was the conversation?
That's what I said. You can't executive producer. But he said, man, you're the greatest, all right? But even Michael Jordan had a coach.
That's what he said.
Yeah, he's great.
And you listened to him.
Yeah. What happened was I was going in the house. I was right in front of my house. Yeah. And I got this phone call from him. He was like, come by the studio. And I'm like, man, I'm looking at the door and I'm like, I could just go in the house and be done with it. You know, but I'm one of them people that believe everything happens for a reason. Right. He called me. He's never called me to come to the studio before.
Not ever in your life?
Mm-mm. So I pull away from my house. I head over to the studio. I get there. He's playing all these lush samples and all this 70s soul music, which relates straight to the movie, because that's the backdrop for this album that I made is set against these soul samples, you know, these things that I've heard growing up. So he's playing all these records, and they're amazing. And I'm like, what are you doing? So I'm putting the Hitman back together. You know, he got LV and Sean C., you know, his whole group. Right. And I'm like, but what are you doing all this type of music? Because it was the music that I needed. It was the exact music that, I envisioned in my mind. And he was like, man, I have nobody to give it to. You know, Biggie's not here, and I can't give these to just anybody. And I was like, well,
he thought somebody who had Biggie's power needed it.
Yeah.
And you were the one that he thought worthy of it.
Yeah. And so I was like, well, give me all. I said, what do you do with this music? That's the best part. I said, what do you do with this music? He said, man, I just play it in my house and I just run around with my socks on.
So you take it.
So I took these tracks. It's like 30 of them, by the way. It's 30 of them. Then I just start picking apart the best ones, and we just start working from there, you know? He didn't executive produce the album, but he was right there. I gave him associate producer credit, you know, and he was very instrumental in the album because he made the foundation to which all the other producers produce into. Because, you know, I would play it for the producer, say it has to fit in this. It has to sound like this. Sonically, it has to have this sound on it. And the great thing about Puff, what I really realize is he's a great producer. I've always known this, but it brought me back to that time.
Some people think that's what he does best. He thinks that's what he does best.
I think that's what he does best.
He does think that's what he does best.
It made me realize that he's not a good producer. He's a great producer. And he's produced Ready to Die and Life After Death and Mary J. Blige's album, Jodeci's album. And, you know, I start getting these tracks back, and I'm like, who's doing this? Like, you know, like he's a director. He's like, it's like Motown over there in my studio. I got horn sessions. I mean, the things that he added after the lyrics was on it. You had to hear the bare tracks. The bare tracks were great tracks, but what he added after it made it a movie and made it complete.
Yeah. You reached out and had people do beats for you.
Yeah.
I mean, you said, I mean, this is what's amazing about this to me. I mean, you really put everything into this one. It's almost like this was, because some people didn't like Kingdom, as you know. You got some bad reviews.
Right.
You may not have agreed with the reviews, but you knew they were there.
Right.
And you knew that you had to hit this one out of the park.
Right. But I wasn't thinking of it in terms of this one has to be crazy because of Kingdom Come, because that's pretty much, you know, an artist's life. Right. You always judge, especially if you're at the top of your field. Because people don't, even the guys who judge Kingdom Come don't judge it against other artists' material. They judge it against my past work.
Exactly right.
So when you're judged against yourself, you just know that you've done something great, that people judge your work against you.